the Social Gambler Radio Hour. I'm John Arnette. Good to have you with us today. Joined as always by producer extraordinaire Pete Melfi, who, if you heard his Bargain Hunter show, you know this already, but I don't even know how to explain it. He's got a beard that's half on and half off. Clearly, he's not interested in attracting members of the opposite sex at this particular juncture of his life. Focus more on other things, which is good. Maybe it's maybe that's healthy. But what do you have to say for yourself there, sir?
First of all,
wait a second. First, for the sake of the video podcast, I'm turning this around.
I'm getting this for the first time. For the first time, I'm actually on John.
Can we see the half and half beard here? That is ridiculous.
Yeah, it was a thing, man. I had the beard. You've seen the beard growing over the past month or so.
No, I hadn't noticed, but it's taken it a month to grow, I'll tell you that.
Well, it had gotten pretty nice, man, so I asked my callers, I'm like, should I keep the beard, should I lose it?
It had gotten pretty nice.
It had gotten pretty nice, and according to me, apparently my callers didn't think so. So 17 of them voted for me to keep the beard, 17 of them voted for me to cut the beard, and I said before the show started today, if it ended in a tie, I would cut half of the beard. That's the only fair thing to do. So I am now walking around for the rest of the day, and I'll be taking pictures of myself through the various locations that you can see on Facebook.com/BargainHuntersRadio.
Plug. I'll be taking pictures of myself. You could tell just from that statement, if you break down that little couple of sentences Pete said there, you tell a lot about him. You could hear him. He really liked his beard. He was really high on his beard. And then you heard him taking pictures of himself and posting them on Facebook, etc., etc. More power to you, man. It's...
Not just on Facebook. Facebook.com/BargainHuntersRadio.
/BargainHuntersRadio. That's right. Hey, dozens of fans. Dozens. Hundreds of fans.
We got 7 new fans just because of this promotion.
Exactly. Just because of this. Anyway, I hate to start the show off in that manner. Plenty going on in the sports world, and certainly we'll get to all that here in a second, but I have to stare right at this guy. He's like 6 feet in front of my face, and he has exactly half of a full beard, and the other half of his face is clean shaven. As I said, hey, there's someone for everyone. And God bless the lady who will eventually take this man in. Anyway, I am John Arnette. This is the Social Gambler Radio Hour. Good to have you with us today. First day of training camp for your Jacksonville Jaguars. I say your if you're from Jacksonville or if you're from St. Augustine, because as we learned a couple of days ago, St. Augustine Mayor Joe, Pete, do you even know the guy's name?
Bowles.
Oh, there we go. See, I knew Bowles, but I love the last time we talked about Joe Bowles. Pete, he's a friend of the family. Pete lived in St. Augustine his whole life. He's 28. Had no idea what party, Democrat, Republican. No idea his political affiliation. That's just classic. But he did remember his name. Anyway, Joe Bowles, of course, making the statement a couple of days ago that the Jacksonville Jaguars are an official ally of the city of St. Augustine. So I guess they are our Jacksonville Jaguars. They did begin training camp today. A lot of the type of positivity and optimism that you expect on the first day of training camp. And for a franchise like the Jaguars, these are the glory days right now. The very beginning of training camp, before any reality is set in about how bad the team is. At least I'm speaking from the past several years, and they're projected to be bad again this year. Hopefully not, but plenty of optimism now. They are worst to first teams every year in the NFL, more than any other sport. We see new breakthrough teams every year. Look at the San Francisco 49ers last year. Why not us? Why can't that be the Jacksonville Jaguars? Now, a lot of the talk from the players today has been about this new renovated locker room. Not sure if you've heard about this. A lot of the players apparently hadn't. Today was the first time they had seen it, and they've taken to Twitter and Facebook, posting all kinds of pictures. This $3 million renovation done to the Jacksonville Jaguars locker room, courtesy of Shad Khan. Among features of this renovation, they now have European toilets. Those Europeans are so clean. Spas, waterfalls, 20 HD LED screen TVs, HD LED TVs. The smallest one of those 20s is 42 inches. They range from 42 inches to 80 inches. So that locker room sounds like a nice place to hang out. Waterfalls, spas, European toilets, 80-inch televisions. I'm convinced. Anyway, the players are, taking it a step further, saying it, says something about the new culture. Linebacker Paul Posluszny saying, it's saying we want to be the best, we're going to provide you with the best. Well, I think that's great. I sincerely hope that locker room, which is apparently now one of the nicest facilities in the entire NFL, if you take these players' word for it, but hopefully those locker room improvements will spur them to better play out on the field. I, for one, as one Jaguar fan, I would have rather seen Shad Khan spend that $3 million on the best player on the team, who, by the way, is a training camp holdout. That's right. While the story here in Jacksonville among the players might be all about optimism, new locker room, fresh start, new coaching staff, opportunity, the talk nationally, and hey, at least there is talk nationally about the Jaguars. That's extremely rare, obviously, but ESPN, CBS Sports, on SportsCenter, one of the lead NFL stories is Maurice Jones-Drew holding out because he's Jacksonville's best player. He's by far their most visible player. He's one of the best players in the entire NFL. Led the league in rushing last year. Only player in the NFL to rush for at least 1,300 yards for the last 3 straight seasons. Now, every day, seems like for the last week, I've come on this show and made my case for why I think Maurice Jones-Drew is in the right here, and the man should just be paid. Pay the man and put him out on the field. And every day I continue to make the case again because I hear so many people around the community, both sports media members, fans, local fans of the team. I hear so many people who are on what I think is the wrong side of this issue. And listen, I understand from the team's perspective. If you're employed by the Jaguars, if you are Gene Smith himself, if you're Shad Khan, I get it, okay? You signed, Gene Smith, the financial people, they did a nice job, I guess, from their perspective, signing a guy that's going to be an excellent value. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's arguably the best running back in the NFL, and they have him under contract for half of what the sort of the middle to upper tier of NFL running backs make. Guys like LaShawn McCoy, Steven Jackson, D'Angelo Williams, Marshawn Lynch, Matt Forte, about half of what those guys make, a third of what the Adrian Petersons and Chris Johnsons of the world make. So, yeah, if you're management, if you're Jaguar management, if you're on that side, I can see where you'd say, hey, he should just show up to camp. He was making $7 million last year. He should show up to camp. He agreed to this contract. What I do not understand, and it's why I'm talking about this again today, because I'm not hearing it talked about. So I feel like, this is my platform. It needs to be. I do not understand the fans' argument here. I don't understand, if you're a fan, why you're on the side of management and why you're not on the side of Maurice Jones-Drew. Because if you're a fan, listen, all you should care about, all I care about as a fan, is having the best team out there. I want my best players out there, want them healthy, want them happy. We care about winning games. Okay, we see it all the time in the NFL where players are cut before the end of their contract. Of course, teams are not required to pay them what they owe them. There are non-guaranteed contracts. It happened last year with David Garrard. He still had lots of money left on that 6-year, $60 million deal that he had signed. But you don't hear any fans saying, oh, wait a second, the team should honor that contract. They signed it. They're cutting this guy without paying the money they owe him. They signed him to a contract. Why is the team not honoring that contract? No, fans don't say that, because if it's good for the organization, you're fine with it. And I am too. I mean, yeah, these guys are well paid. No one was crying any tears for David Garrard. He was made a millionaire by the Jaguars organization. So they thought it was the organization's best interest to move on. So they cut ties and move on. That's fine. He was paid. I don't feel bad for him because he's not getting the rest that was due to him on the contract. So I don't understand why fans in this situation would side with management here when Maurice Jones-Drew is clearly going to be underpaid this year. Do you expect him to play for less money than Laurent Robinson? This is the NFL's leading rusher at the height of his career. He's 27 years old. You just brought in a number 3 wide receiver who's been on 5 NFL teams And you're going to pay him more than Maurice Jones-Drew, who's bled for this team? I mean, burned out his prime years for this team? What's that about? Plenty of salary cap space. The owner's dropping $3 million on a locker room renovation. Going to take a call now. We do have Rich on the line. Rich, you're on the Social Gambler Radio Hour. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, and how are you?
Doing fine, thank you.
Been on the other side. Okay. And here's what I have an issue. Number one, I'm not a Jaguars fan. I have state
Hey, Rich, you're breaking up a little bit. I heard you say. I heard you say number one. I'm not a Jaguars fan, and then you broke up a little bit.
Sorry, I do apologize. I was on a bad spot. I should be good now. You got me?
Yeah, I got you now.
All right, awesome. I'm not a Jaguars fan. I have nothing at stake here. Okay, Maurice Jones-Drew was one of only two backs to carry the ball. I think it was like 200 times or 250 times last year. All right, the old adage used to be, and I'm sure you remember this: if you have two running backs, then you have no running back. That has now changed. If you have one running back, you're in some serious deep trouble. And my biggest problem that I have with Maurice Jones-Drew is that he's been running so hard and so well. You almost say it can't go on. It can't keep happening. He cannot keep being, as effective a running back. So how long do you sign him? Do you sign him 3? Do you sign him? First of all, I would never sign him for 4 years. Never.
Well, Rich, but see, they could sign him for 4 years and they could cut him after 2 years. The point is, with the non-guaranteed contracts, I mean, you could pay the man. Say Gene Smith and Shad Khan sit down and they say, he's 27 now, he'll probably be at his peak till he's 29, then there'll be a steep decline. Why can't you renegotiate his contract, pay him what he's worth now? I mean, just what he's worth. And we're not even talking about Adrian Peterson money. Just pay him market value, and then if you want to cut him, before the back end of the contract hits, cut him.
Then you have that option. But, I mean, it's really weird that even with new ownership, it's almost like the same old business. Like, Fred Taylor wanted one more year at a bargain. One more year at a bargain, they let him go. And now you're stuck with a Maurice Jones-Drew situation. You have Jacksonville. I mean, you're obviously a Jacksonville fan, correct?
I am, yes.
You guys have nothing on offense other than him.
You're correct.
And it's not front-page news, And so the guy should be getting paid. But I guess what I was wanting to ask you is, what do you feel that the contract should be? Where would you like to see the contract fall in fairness to everybody involved?
He's been paid market value for the last couple of years. He's been making $7 million a year. That is just less than guys like D'Angelo Williams, LaShawn McCoy, Steven Jackson, guys who Maurice Jones-Drew, Matt Forte, guys who Maurice Jones-Drew, I'm sure, feels he's better than. That's just less than what those players are making. It's what he's been making, and it's been fair market value. I mean, for them not to renegotiate, especially considering there's no guaranteed contracts here. The NFL, the team does not have to honor it on the other side. I mean, they can cut a guy at any time and not owe him the rest of what's on the deal. And so if you're Maurice Jones-Drew and you're going to be underpaid here, especially when you have an owner who's a new owner who's coming in, talked about spending to the cap, brought in a receiver, and Laurent Robinson he's paying $6 million a year for. He spent $3 million on a locker room renovation. If you're the best player on the team who's still in the midst of your prime, and hey, Rich, I hear you when you say that he's bound to fall off, but he's shown no signs of that yet. He led the league in rushing last year. He's 27 years old. So
it's scary. Yeah, it's scary. It's scary because he runs small, but he runs big. He stays low to the ground. It seems like he has a lot of better opportunities to not get injured because of the fact that because his center of gravity is a lot lower. He seems like his legs are gigantic. I mean, the guy keeps himself in peak physical shape. I have no problem signing him, but I mean, I'm on the other side. Is that there should be the contract should be extremely friendly to the organization on the backside of the contract. So I guess that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not saying the organization should cripple themselves and sign this guy and pay him till he's 32 or 3 years old. Not saying that at all. I mean, the NFL is a business. We all know that as a production business. But you're talking about a guy who's done nothing but produce ever since he came to the team, and last year was the culmination of it. I mean, he's 27 years old. You're right. He's got a lot of carries, but I expect at least 2 more really good seasons. Maurice Jones-Drew at his peak for at least a couple of more seasons. And, if you're to ask him to play for less than you're playing Laurent Robinson.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I could see where in his situation, he's sitting there saying, "Excuse me, they've got $24 million in cap space." I mean, it's nothing. And for fans, and so many fans take the other side of, he should shut his mouth and get into camp.
No way. After what happened to Forte last year, no way.
Yeah,
no player will ever do that again. That was the dumbest move on Forte's part. We looked at it like it was honorable. Like, wow, what a team guy. And then that happens. No way, dude. You do not enter camp without a contract. No way.
And I don't understand, what's it to fans? I mean, all it is a couple of $1 million more out of Shad Khan's pocket. It's not like it affects, there's plenty of room salary cap-wise.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not like you'd have to...
What are they waiting for? You wonder what they're waiting for.
I don't think they're going to do it. After Shad Khan's public comments yesterday saying Maurice Jones-Drew will not get a new contract, to me, they've painted themselves so far into this corner. I think it's going to be a standoff. I'd be surprised if Maurice Jones-Drew is in a Jaguars uniform in the backfield week 1 of the regular season. I'm going to be surprised if that happens. I sincerely hope it happens, because I agree with something else you said, Rich. If you take Maurice Jones-Drew away from this offense, what you're looking at is scary bad. I mean,
you're looking at Indianapolis bad last year.
You're correct.
Really bad.
You're correct. The only hope the Jaguar fans have this year in terms of offense, Gabbert is not going to go from being the worst quarterback in the league, which he was last year, to a top 5 guy. That's unreasonable. But your hope is that
15, 18. That's serviceable.
Yeah, your hope is that Gabbert improves, and while you have this great running game, one of the best running backs in the league, leading the league in rushing, if Gabbert improves some, that would be enough for effective offense. If you take that running back away, and if you have Rashad Jennings back there, who would not be top half of the league starting running backs, not even close, all of a sudden, what do you have? They're going to be no better on offense than they were last year if Maurice Jones-Drew's not back there.
I agree, and like I said, hey, good luck to your Jaguars, except I think during Week 16, I think my Patriots come into town, and I'll hopefully be at that game, but go Jaguars until then, all right?
All right, hey, appreciate the call, Rich.
Take it easy, man. And
yeah, that might be a bloodbath. Week 16 when the Patriots come to town. We as Jaguar fans hope that the Patriots are resting their starters by then. There's a chance that'll happen. They'll sort of lock something up. Hopefully we'll get some reserves in there. I don't... Sitting here at this point in the preseason, it's hard to imagine the Jaguars competing with the New England Patriots in a game that actually mattered. But maybe I'm too cynical. We do see great change every year in the NFL.
I'll tell you what, John. If Maurice Jones-Drew is not in a Jaguars uniform, can't most teams rest their starters every game? Pretty much.
I tell you what, you might be right. Really, because the hope this year for improved offense, like I was saying, no one expects. It's unreasonable to expect Blaine Gabbert to instantly turn into a top 5, top 10 guy. That's not going to happen. But we hope, with improved weapons, if he improves with the great running game we have, then we could be on to something. But you take that away, you take Maurice Jones-Drew away. And by the way, it's not only a lot of local fans and local media who I hear on what I think is the wrong side of this issue, sort of against Maurice Jones-Drew. Nationally, this is a big story. The show that precedes this show, here on ESPN 1420 St. Augustine, the Scott Van Pelt Show, which was today hosted by Linda Cohn. Linda Cohn, I've said this before on the show, Linda Cohn is one of the worst personalities in sports radio around the world. She was a fine Sports Center anchor, I understand. Something about her, I cannot listen to the lady. I'm sorry, I can't do it. Makes me want to crawl out the window. And to hear her, I'm forced to listen to that show for the last 5 minutes every day because I'm sitting here, getting ready. We come on right after they end. And her one big thing at the end of her show was, come on, Maurice Jones-Drew, show up to camp. You're the best player on the... Do they understand? Do you understand exactly how much Maurice Jones-Drew being paid here? And how much his peers are being paid? How much people on his own team are being paid? And for those of you who think that doesn't matter, wake up. And for those of you who think he owes the team something any more than he's already given him, the contract was front-loaded. He's been making $7 million a year for the last 3 years, which was market value. He's been paid what he's earned. He's been paid what he deserves to be paid. He's been a $7 million a year running back. And you think he's been deaf to all the, to Shad Khan talking about throwing around all this money? Laurent Robinson, 5 year, $31 million or whatever it was. And he's not even asking to be rewarded for a good career. It's not like it's a LaDainian Tomlinson situation where he's 30 years old and wants to get another big contract for all the... I mean, this guy is still as productive as they come. As good as it gets. I mean, if you ask me, if you held my feet to the fire and say, any running back in the NFL, who would you take over him? I'd say Adrian Peterson, and then after that, I would really hesitate. I mean, I'm not sure I'd take anybody else after that ahead of him. I understand the arguments for the Arian Fosters and Chris Johnsons of the world, but the other argument that bothers me, which I've heard people use over the last couple days, is, well, they were 5-11. How important is he anyway? Does it really matter? If you've been watching those games, you understand how important this guy has been. 5-11 would have been worse without him. They will be terrible on offense if he's not on the field this year. They will be. Mike Mularkey's no, groundbreaking offensive genius. He runs a very traditional offense. The Jaguars aren't going to be spreading it out like the New Orleans Saints, throwing it all over the field. Going to be nothing like that. A lot of I formation, play action passing. Anyway, it's a major story. It's going to be to continue to be a major story, both here in Northeast Florida and in NFL news nationally, because this guy's a premier player. And you're talking about an organization that is, stuck in the mud. I just don't understand. Beyond principle, I don't understand why you wouldn't pay this man. And for Shad Khan to say yesterday, well, there's 50 other employees. To say that Maurice Jones-Drew is of equal importance to the backup left guard, like I said yesterday, nearly everyone on this Jacksonville Jaguars roster is 100% replaceable. You could sit Blaine Gabbert, put in somebody else, Chad Henne, or whoever. Go find a guy on the street, Graham Harrell, whatever. You could replicate Blaine Gabbert's performance. He is replaceable. Most players on this Jacksonville Jaguar team, as with most 5-11 teams, are totally replaceable. You could lose any of them, and you go to the street or the waiver wire, NFL free agency, and you could find a replacement that'll be comparable. Play football just about like the previous guy did. With only a couple exceptions, Maurice Jones-Drew is one of those exceptions. This guy is not replaceable. Rashad Jennings will be a poor replacement, and I hope it doesn't come to that. Anyway, we do have to go to a break now. 794-9001, the number if you'd like to get in on the other side. I'm John Arnette, and this is the Social Gambler Radio Hour.
Nothing says love like Italian food, so don't take her to a generic big chain Italian place. Take her...
Welcome back to the Social Gambler Radio Hour. I'm John Arnette. Good to have you with us on a hot Thursday afternoon here in Northeast Florida. We are brought to you by thesocialgambler.com, your leader in free sports picks, news, and reviews. Lots of stuff on the Social Gambler today. Content updated daily. Everything on the Social Gambler is entirely free. Pretty much everything sports-related, sports gambling-related, including news and picks, gambling technology-related, gambling industry-related, everything. TheSocialGambler.com. Also, daily video podcasts of this show. Video podcasts of this show can now be found on TheSocialGambler.com. Before we went away, of course, we were talking about the Maurice Jones-Drew holdout. Jones-Drew's not the only high-profile Jaguar player who is not on the field today. Justin Blackmon, first-round draft pick, drafted 5th overall this past April, still unsigned. One of only 4 NFL first-rounders still unsigned. Matt Khalil, who was picked 4th, agreed to terms today with the Vikings, so Blackmon is now the highest drafted unsigned player at number 5. Hopefully they'll be able to get him out there on the field soon. I do believe Justin Blackmon is going to make a real impact. A great receiver in college, a real specimen. And especially if Jones-Drew's not going to be out there, they're going to really need him. I know rookie wide receivers don't often make a big impact in the NFL, but because of what else the Jaguars have, a wide receiver, or the lack thereof, I think Blackman has an excellent chance this year to be an impact guy. Now, something else that I saw today that is interesting, it's different. I like it. I like Shad Khan doing it. You know, there's no question that since Shad Khan has taken over, hiring Mark Lamping as president of position that previously did not exist with the organization, president, a guy in charge of all non-football operations, there has been a concerted effort to get fans into the stadium, no question about it. From the caravans they've done around the region to try to regionalize the Jaguars fan base, to what they're doing now, and they're going to be the only team in the NFL that allows this, folks. I mean, this is unusual. This year, the Jacksonville Jaguars will be allowing you to bring outside food into the stadium. That's right, you'll be able to bring your own food in the stadium if you don't feel like paying $13 for a hamburger. I'm telling you what, a full meal in that stadium of lukewarm food that is less than great. It's not terrible, that stadium food. But you're talking upwards of $30. Ridiculous. You'll now be able to bring outside food into the stadium. You know, that's just another way Shad Khan is trying to get people in there. Now, you won't be able to bring just anything, and it sort of narrows it down, so don't get too excited. Not going to be bringing a pizza box or anything. Think sort of like when you're flying, like the liquids you take in the airplane. Is it going to be like that? Because fairly strict regulations. Food will be permitted inside Everbank Field, provided that it is unwrapped and placed inside a 1-gallon clear plastic bag no larger than 11 by 11, which is a standard freezer bag. So your food has to be unwrapped and in a clear freezer bag. Of course, all items subject to inspection, and they reserve the right to deny any food item from entering the gate. Not surprisingly, they're still not allowing any liquids or beverages of any kind. That, I'm sure, would kill the concession sales. Not allowed to bring drinks in there, but you will be allowed to bring food in there in a clear plastic bag. Now, I don't know what kind. I was trying to sort of rack in my brain of what kind of food to bring in there. I know what kind. Love boiled peanuts. Nothing better than some boiled peanuts when watching football. I have perfected the art of boiling peanuts over the last couple of years. Need to make sure they're green. You need those green boiled peanuts to get them really good. And all you really need beyond that is water and a heaping dose of salt. Some of you like the Cajun. You know, I'm a salt and water guy. Anyway, I will be bringing my big freezer bag full of boiled peanuts into Jacksonville Jaguar games from now on. No doubt about it. Now, another sort of piece of NFL news that affects those here in Jacksonville, or turns out there won't be any difference in Jacksonville, you know, from previous years, but for a while we thought there would be. You might remember about 3 or 4 weeks ago, we said it here on the show, sort of everybody did. The NFL changed their blackout policy, and we sort of pronounced that to be the end of blackouts here in Jacksonville. Of course, I know we haven't had a blackout for 2 seasons. A couple times we've had to be bailed out by Wayne Weaver buying a whole bunch of tickets. Also haven't had a sellout in 2 seasons, but the NFL changed their policy, allowing teams to lower the number of non-premium seats sold to avoid a blackout. So in the past, it's been 100% of non-premium seats sold. NFL has allowed teams to lower that number to 85%. Now the catch there is, any tickets that you sell above whatever your new number is, so if you take it down to 85%, any tickets you sell above that, if you fill it up, for example, sell 100% of tickets, then that remaining percentage, so the 15%, if you load your number to 85%, sold 100% of the tickets, that 15% will be divided equally among your competitors, among the rest of the NFL. Okay. So what has happened since then is many teams, including the Jaguars, have chosen to not take advantage of this rule change. Jacksonville announcing they're still going to require 100% of tickets to be sold, of seats to be sold, to avoid a blackout. They're not alone. Other teams who have had blackout issues, like the San Diego Chargers, Buffalo Bills, Cincinnati Bengals, Cleveland Browns, those teams have all said thanks, but no thanks to the NFL's offer. The one team that has taken full advantage is the Tampa Bay Bucks. Now, Tampa Bay faces a lot of the same ticket sales problems that we do here in Jacksonville. You know, it's really hot throughout September and most of October, so a lot of people find the comfort of their living room preferable to sweating it out, in the outdoor stadiums we have. Tampa, has that same issue. Florida in general, even though Northeast Florida not so much, we're supposed to be a better football area up here. We are a better college football area. But the rest of Florida, places like Tampa, known for being not great sports places, not great sports towns, because there's so many transplants. But Tampa's taken full advantage, only requiring 85% of non-premium tickets to be sold this year, which is, a fan-friendly move, no question about it. And I said at the time, I think it's a mistake that Jacksonville hasn't taken advantage of that rule, because the Jaguars, they need to breed fans. I mean, they need little kids seeing the Jaguars on TV every Sunday. They need a new generation, an up-and-coming generation of fans. The Miami Dolphins are one team that has not yet decided. They have not yet announced their intention. And if Miami decides to lower it too, I think that, Shad Connor's rooting for Miami to decline and stick with the 100% number. Because if Miami and Tampa both agree to lower that blackout number to televise games on local television, even if they're not sold out, that will make Jacksonville look a little worse, in my opinion. We are going to go to the phones now. We have Jay on the line. Jay, you're on the Social Gambler Radio Hour. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, John. I just wanted to say, with Maurice Jones-Drew, when he signed his contract, obviously he wasn't number one in the league, and he has become that player. And, for these people that say you got to honor a contract, I guess they don't follow sports, but, the formula Jacksonville is using now is how you become a mediocre team or a terrible team, and you never keep talent.
Yeah, well, hey Jay, I agree with you. They've been mediocre to terrible for several years now. And, yeah, I don't understand the way they're handling this situation. And like I said yesterday on the show, if you're a free agent, why would you want to come to Jacksonville? I mean, not only are they sort of obscure and sort of an outlier on the NFL landscape, but if they're not going to take care of their own guys, if you're not paying Maurice Jones-Drew, I mean, nobody could have a better start to his Jaguar career than Maurice Jones-Drew. I mean, the guy's gotten better and better and better, culminating with his season last year, 1,600 yards, leading the league in rushing, the only running back in the NFL to rush for 1,300 yards or more for the last 3 seasons. So, I mean, it'd be hard to perform better than him, and he's not getting paid. He's being expected to play for half of what his peers are, a third of what some of his peers are. He's playing for less than free agent acquisitions this offseason who haven't proven anything. I just, how do you expect to attract free agents unless it's a situation like Laurent Robinson where you're offering him more money than anybody else? I mean, there was nobody else. A lot of people around the NFL thought the Jags overpaid for Laurent Robinson. I was behind that acquisition at the time just because I felt the Jaguars were in desperate need of help at receiver, and so many big-name receivers are already signed with other teams. Laurent Robinson, at the time they signed him, was sort of one of the best left, it looked like, and so I was happy they at least did something. But to not pay Maurice Jones-Drew, to not take care of him, and again, it's not like you're paying him for something he has done. This guy's still in his prime. For you to have any chance this season of success, you need this guy who is your best player on the field and happy and productive. It blows my mind.
Yeah, the only thing I can figure is Shad Khan is thinking, I got a team full of bad players, and I'm just not going to overpay for anybody right now, and we'll try to be better 5 years from now, or we'll be in Europe. So, I can't, figure it out.
I hope, hopefully he wouldn't have spent $3 million on this locker room renovation if he planned on leaving in the next year or two. But as I said, I sure wish he'd have spent that $3 million on Maurice Jones-Drew's contract.
Let's put it in our players,
No kidding. I'm sure.
In fact, we need to keep them tough. We don't need them sitting on toilets.
That's right. European toilets. I saw that described. I saw that described in 2 or 3 different places. European toilets. First off, what exactly is the difference between a European toilet and American toilet? I've been to Europe, and I don't recall the toilets being that much, more technologically advanced. Now, the light switch, that's something else. If you wake up in some room in Europe, just an ordinary room, you really, I'm telling you, you need to put your thinking cap on to figure out how to turn on the light.
I'll tell you what, I don't want to play the Ravens or the Steelers and have them teasing me about European toilets.
European toilets and the waterfalls. There are waterfalls and spas in there now. Yeah, well, I hear you. I got where you're coming from there, Jay. But
thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, appreciate the call. I tend to agree with Jay on this. I think a lot of people are on the other side. I know a lot of people are on the other side because I've heard it over and over the last couple of days, not only locally but nationally. People siding with the organization here. And hey, I understand maybe why a national person with no affiliation to the Jaguars would say, Maurice Jones-Drew should show up. What do they care? I understand why management wants him to show up. I do not understand why a fan of the team whose sole interest should be seeing that the best players are out on the field, happy and healthy, productive. I do not understand how you are not on Maurice Jones-Drew's side in this issue. Paying Maurice Jones-Drew what he's worth, no more, paying him what he's worth would not change one thing as far as the Jaguars roster goes. The Jaguars, their prospects, their ability, they'd still be able, if they were going to make some big trade to bring in a big-name guy, I don't think anybody's expecting that, they'd still have plenty of space to do that. They have all kinds of salary cap space. The only difference is a couple of $1 million out of Shad Khan's pocket. Shad Khan has more money than anyone listening to this show right now will ever see in their lifetime. So I don't understand why all these people are crying tears for Shad Khan, saying, oh no, Maurice Jones-Drew. You should have Maurice Jones-Drew's back in this situation. He's the one who's been performing. He's the one, who's done something for this city over the last few years. Anyway, every day I think we're going to move on from this issue to something else, but continues to be talked about, and it probably will be the dominant topic throughout Jaguars training camp, at least until this ends or is resolved in some way. I certainly hope what was rumored yesterday in terms of the trade, rumored separately on ESPN and the Florida Times-Union, certainly hope nothing like that happens. I believe the offense has little to no hope without him this season. But anyway, do you have to go to a break now? Didn't you give me the break signal, Pete? Not hallucinating. We'll be right back in a little bit. 794-9001, the number if you'd like to get in on the other side. I'm John Arnette, and this is the Social Gambler Radio Hour. Welcome back to the Social Gambler Radio Hour. I'm John Arnette. Good to have you with us today. We are brought to you by thesocialgambler.com, your leader in free sports picks, news, and reviews. Lots of free, fresh content on the Social Gambler today, as usual. Video podcasts of this program, if you're interested in that type of thing. But much, much more. Be sure to check them out. They're not only a website, they're an app for your smartphone, The Social Gambler. I've told you before, The Social Gambler is where you can get all your free advice. But the only place here in Northeast Florida you can legally act on that advice is the Jacks or Better Casino. The Jacks or Better, which is, of course, the casino ship that sails 9 times weekly out of Mayport. They have the only legal sports book in the area. They also have full Vegas action. Slots, blackjack, craps, roulette, 3-card poker, baccarat. You name it, they've got it on the Jacks or Better Casino. They have a non-smoking level, a smoking level, and the outdoor area up top, where you can enjoy maybe a drink in the ocean breeze. Check them out there, the Jacks Are Better. Anytime you go out to the Jacks Are Better Casino, be sure to mention this radio show, the Social Gambler Radio Hour, for $10 free play. Just for mentioning this radio show, the Social Gambler Radio Hour, they'll give you $10. You can use same as cash anywhere in the casino. Jacks Are Better Casino, friend of the program. We're going to get to a couple of college football things. Now, certainly this Penn State situation continues to be sort of at the forefront of college football news nationally. Bill O'Brien, new head coach, has been making the media rounds the last couple of days. Saw him interviewed yesterday. I thought it was very interesting. He was asked what is going to be the most difficult part about these sanctions from his perspective. And I expected him to say the loss of 20 scholarships a year, because that is what is going to deplete the Penn State roster and make them to where they're not going to be able to compete. But O'Brien was quick with it. He said the part about letting our current players transfer and be eligible to play immediately. So he has worked very hard, apparently, trying to keep this current group of Penn State players together. And I thought it was amusing. In the same interview, O'Brien talked about, other coaches recruiting his players. Because, of course, everybody on Penn State's team now can be recruited. They can take official visits. They can transfer anywhere. And to me, the toughest part about that is not necessarily right now, when, all these guys say, we're sticking together. But, the window they have just over a 12-month window to transfer. So at any point during this season or after this season, next spring, I would bet that most college athletes' experience, college football players' experience, includes, sometime when they're irritated with their coaching staff or the program because maybe they're not starting, they're not getting as much playing time as they think they should, just don't get along with the coach. So that means for the next year, just over a year, all of these players, at any point that they're disgruntled with their role at Penn State or the Penn State coaching staff, they can just say, you know what, I'm out of here. And they go someplace else and be able to play immediately. Silas Redd, their best player, sophomore running back, rushed for over 1,200 yards last year. He is meeting with USC, apparently going to take a formal visit out there. Most of the other core guys have said they're sticking around. We'll see if that lasts. And I thought it was humorous. Bill O'Brien, he said, he was irritated with coaches. He said, I appreciate some coaches who have given me the courtesy of a phone call before they started recruiting my players. Other coaches have not given me that courtesy. You can tell it sort of irritated him that coaches would recruit his players and not give him a call. And then it almost made me laugh out loud. I saw a couple hours later, an unrelated story said that Penn State players yesterday, as they left the football facility, there were dozens of coaches from other universities literally in the parking lot. Coaches in the parking lot, and as players would walk by, they'd say, hey, you got a minute? It's just comical. Bill O'Brien's concerned about people calling him and asking for permission, and not only are they not doing that, they're just parking in the parking lot, getting these players as they come out. All's fair in college football recruiting, I guess. Now, a couple of Big Ten coaches are either being disingenuous or they're not engaging in this type of practice. Wisconsin coach Brett Bielema, for one. Pat Fitzgerald, Northwestern coach, another one. But Bielema came out today publicly and said they would not recruit any Penn State players, would not even accept any Penn State players onto their team. Urban Meyer was asked about it, new Ohio State coach. He gave the predictable, evasive, I don't know enough about the rules. That's exactly what he said. Sure. You can bet he's already set up shop right outside of State College. He has recruiters on that full time. Urban Meyer snaking in there. Wouldn't be surprised if Ohio State ends up with a couple of former Penn State players. Now, Penn State President Rodney Erickson, who has been roundly criticized by Penn State alumni and fans over the last couple of days for accepting these sanctions, these huge sanctions, a 4-year bowl ban, loss of scholarships, $60 million fine. Well, Erickson's been criticized for accepting these sanctions without appealing, without going to the Board of Trustees. Well, Erickson made his case publicly today. And apparently he made it to the Board of Trustees last night, and the Board of Trustees is now seeing a different tune about how they feel about this punishment. Not quite as outspoken and outraged as they were before. That is because NCAA President Mark Emmert had informed Rodney Erickson on July 17th via phone call that a majority of the NCAA's leadership, and Emmert has since expanded on that and says a group of university presidents, a majority of the NCAA's leadership were in favor of a 4-year death penalty for Penn State football. That means no football whatsoever for 4 years. So on July 17th, Erickson, today when he was pleading his case, sort of, he said he fielded that phone call on July 17th. It turns out, since then, Emmert and Erickson had been in negotiations. Sounds like this penalty was negotiated out between Mark Emmert, NCAA president, and Penn State president Rodney Erickson. And what they finally reached is the current sanctions, which are extremely severe, but not as severe as a 4-year death penalty. No question about that. And so the Penn State board seems satisfied now. They seem satisfied that these sanctions are, now we know why they didn't appeal. Good reason not to appeal. Now, in college football news, you might be more interested in hearing. I know we have a lot of SEC fans listening. I'm an SEC football fan, love SEC football. I'm one of those people, honestly. I could watch Mississippi State and South Carolina, or Mississippi State and Arkansas. Just about any SEC game there is, but Vanderbilt versus Kentucky, I'll watch that with as much interest as I'll watch, your garden variety NFL game or whatever. Really enjoy SEC football. Tennessee projected to finish 4th by the media in the SEC East this season. I'm not so sure that Tennessee's not going to be better than Florida. That remains to be seen, but a big part of what Tennessee does, a big part of their hopes, they really rest on Tyler Bray, quarterback Tyler Bray, who has looked good in part. He's had flashes his first couple of years. Look, the tools of a future NFL guy. Hasn't really put it all together yet, but has had some very nice games. Tennessee has a good wide receiving core this year now. They've got 3 wide receivers who are legitimate NFL prospects, legitimate upper-tier SEC guys. But Tyler Bray's in a little trouble. Yesterday, University police responded to an incident in which he was throwing bottles at a car in the parking lot of his apartment complex. So let's hope this isn't the Steven Garcia syndrome, and this guy turns out to be talent wasted. I guarantee you Derek Dooley's hoping that. I guarantee you something else. This incident is not going to cost Tyler Bray 1 game. He is just too important to that team, and Derek Dooley is squarely on the hot seat. As hot a seat as there is in the SEC. Second might be Joker Phillips at Kentucky, but let me tell you what, Derek Dooley, Tennessee had better be better this year, or there will be a different coach in Rocky Top come next season. Don't know if you also heard other sort of SEC-related news anyway. I don't know if this should surprise us anymore, but still, when you hear things like this, it just sort of reaffirms some of the craziness that is involved with college football. LSU has officially offered, and they're making no bones about it, this is not a rumor, they have offered a 14-year-old a football scholarship. Someone who is not even in the 8th grade yet. He's finished the 7th grade. This guy's name is Dylan Moses. Now, he has a father named Edwin Moses who apparently has been training him for the, he's been training Edwin Moses. I'm reading this article where there's all kinds of quotes from Edwin Moses talking about how they'd been working on his broad jump and his vertical. I have the picture of this guy. Do you ever see the movie Little Giants, Pete? Little Giants? Do you remember the one guy's father, the serious football player who, I don't know if he was on the team. Remember the serious guy? And his father was all, massage his calves at night and, every time I hear about one of these hardcore, fathers who, are molding their football-playing sons, which I will probably be in a few years, by the way. I'm sure we got a quarterback in the family. There's one dude. But every time I hear about that, I sort of think about that guy. I guess that means that's a good character. I don't know. It's funny to even think about that movie. Probably been 15 years since I've seen it. But anyway, Edward Moses totally behind this. Now, little Dylan Moses, who just finished the 7th grade, maybe I shouldn't be calling him little. This guy is Dylan Moses, a 7th grader, a guy who will be entering the 8th grade, is 6 feet, 205 pounds, has a 34-inch vertical leap, ran a 4.46 40 at LSU summer camp recently. I mean, let me tell you what. I know they're growing big down there in Louisiana. We had a show that It was a little controversial because I got a little bit of hard time. We won't go through it. We had a show last week describing why maybe we see some of these great athletes coming out of this part of the world. But it looks like Dylan Moses, who has been offered a scholarship by LSU, 14 years old, rising 8th grader. An 8th grader, again, let me read that off to you. 6 feet, 205 pounds, 34-inch vertical. A 34-inch vertical leap, folks. That means when he jumps up in the air, you can just about put a yardstick under his feet. I mean, stretching, if his feet were stretched all the way to the ground. A 34-inch vertical, a guy entering the 8th grade, 4.46 40. His daddy wasn't surprised by anything with a 4.46. I didn't even mention the 9-foot broad jump, mainly because I don't know anything about broad jumping, and so I don't know how good 9 feet is. I do know what a 34-inch vertical is. But his dad, said, I've been working on the broad jump, knew the 34-inch vertical was there. The 40 surprised me. Okay. I'll tell you what. LSU offering a 14-year-old. More of the same in the world of the SEC. And God bless it. Football season cannot get here soon enough. That's all for today, folks. We'll see you tomorrow at 4 for more of the Social Gambler Radio Hour.